Every shield needs a structure, doesn't
Yeah.
it? And, well, every vision, no matter how grand or, revolutionary it sounds geopolitically, it needs an institution, something to make it real.
And crucially, to make it last.
Exactly, last beyond the people who first dreamed it up.
That really is the pivot point, isn't it? We've talked a lot about the philosophy, this whole idea of a cohesive bloc united by shared defense needs, often called the nuclear umbrella concept and strategic circles.
Right.
But philosophy, well, without a blueprint, it's just talk, isn't it? Today, we're really diving deep into the actual architecture. We're moving past the what if and digging into the how it's being designed, how it's organized, how it's being institutionalized based on the sources we have.
That's right. And these sources, they give us this incredibly detailed analysis. It outlines how this strategic concept is meant to evolve from an abstract idea into a concrete three-tiered command system.
A very deliberate system.
Yeah, and this structure, it's been dubbed the Muslim NATO concept. Yeah. Which is pretty evocative. Like NATO, it tries to, codify collective security through these interlocking military and political institutions. It's quite something, a masterclass in institutional design, really.
And core to that design, something the sources keep emphasizing, is this intentional dual leadership structure. You have these two distinct anchors, right? Performing highly synergistic, specialized roles.
Okay.
The whole alliance aims to transform that shared identity, that shared faith, into a highly structured military force, not just relying on sentiment.
So let's look at those anchors. You've got Pakistan, positioned as the operational core, the hard power, basically.
The strategic command, the nuclear deterrence piece, that's Pakistan's side.
And then on the other side, you have Saudi Arabia, acting as the spiritual and financial anchor, providing the money, the economic sustainability, and importantly, that religious legitimacy.
It's an alliance designed around specialized functional roles, recognizing that, look, no single nation has everything needed for a truly robust generational defense pact.
Makes sense. You need both the muscle and the means, plus the unifying principle.
Precisely. And what makes this discussion so timely, so relevant right now, is the starting gun, the visible layer, the first concrete step of this command structure. It doesn't wait for dozens of nations to sign on the dotted line.
No.
No, it begins with a very specific, high-stakes, bilateral military agreement.
Okay, and we're talking specifically about the Pakistan-Saudi Defense Pact signed in 2025. That's the one.
That's the one. And according to the sources, this agreement isn't the end goal. It's the critical point of inception, the launch pad.
So it's the seed from which the whole structure is meant to grow.
That initial agreement, the sources argue, it really mirrors how NATO started back in the late 1940s.
How so?
Well, it starts with recognizing a mutual crisis, or at least a shared need to manage regional instability and threats, a powerful motivator. And then it uses that strong initial agreement between two core powers, uses it as the foundation, the cornerstone upon which they plan to build outwards towards permanence and eventually multilateral expansion.
So it's like the essential institutional handshake, the thing that moves it all from theory, from ideas on paper,
into diplomatic and military reality.
Yeah.
It kicks off the actual work.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more in section 1. This foundational need for structure. It's tempting, isn't it, to look at the Muslim world and talk about strength in numbers. Nearly 2 billion people, huge geographic spread, vast resources.
It is tempting, but the sources we're looking at are very clear on this. They hit us with a powerful lesson apparently drawn from historical failures of unity efforts.
Which is?
Vision without architecture collapses.
Stark.
It is. And it's a profound critique of, past attempts at regional unity. Many of those relied purely on shared political rhetoric, maybe temporary alliances between leaders.
Things that didn't last.
Exactly. It speaks directly to how difficult it is to translate raw strength demographics, resources into actual usable power. Numbers alone just aren't enough.
Right.
Without organization, without established command chains, joint doctrine, shared logistics, protocols for intel sharing, well, those 2 billion people in vast territories, they remain separate units, disparate.
So this Muslim NATO concept is framed as the antidote to that historical fragmentation.
Pretty much. It's the institutional recognition that effectiveness needs organization. It needs coordination. It needs the ability to act as one unified, cohesive whole when it matters.
It's about translating that potential strength into strategically usable collective power.
Right. And this necessity, this understanding, it drives the entire dual leadership structure we mentioned. The architects seem to have realized that having just one nation try to lead on all fronts, military, spiritual, financial, well, that would likely fail.
How so? Overwhelmed, or seen as?
Overwhelmed, certainly. But maybe worse, accused of naked hegemony, of just trying to dominate.
Okay, that makes sense. So this brings us back to the two central pillars holding it all up, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, and their very specific specialized roles.
Let's dig into those roles.
Yeah, let's start with Pakistan's contribution. The sources define it as the operational backbone. What does that actually mean in terms of, tangible assets and command responsibilities?
The sources are pretty exhaustive here. Pakistan's role is providing the hard military edge, the muscle, and also the institutional continuity. So this means they're responsible for actually hosting the Supreme Allied Command, SAC.
The military HQ.
The absolute apex of the military structure. And hosting that requires immense infrastructure, security. It's a huge commitment.
And crucially,
they bring the nuclear deterrence piece to the table, offering that protective shield, which fundamentally changes the regional power dynamic.
That's a massive factor.
Huge. Plus, they provide the highly elite forces, drawing on decades of counter-terrorism experience, conventional warfare experience, and they supply the strategic intelligence infrastructure, essential for alliance-wide threat assessments. They are the professional military strategic core.
It immediately highlights why the SAC has to be located there, doesn't it? You can't really lead a nuclear-backed alliance effectively from somewhere else. The command needs to be right there with the deterrence capability.
Precisely, co-located. And then in complementary opposition, you have Saudi Arabia, defined as the spiritual and financial anchor.
Okay.
This is where the long-term sustainability comes in, and the moral legitimacy. Saudi Arabia is slated, according to these plans, to fund the initial foundational operations.
Which must cost a fortune.
Staggering capital, undoubtedly. And they provide that religious legitimacy, which is seen as necessary for uniting dozens of often politically very different Muslim states around the globe.
And that spiritual anchor role, it also translates into a specific operational job, right?
Yes. Leading the Sacred Sites Command, a highly specialized unit dedicated purely to protecting the holiest places in Islam. That's seen as a core requirement, ensuring the stability of the spiritual heartland.
Okay, so Pakistan handles the overall command and hard power. Saudi Arabia handles the funding, legitimacy, and protecting the holy sites.
The sources describe this union as forming the two pillars, a blend of power and purpose.
Power and purpose, I like that.
It's presented as a sophisticated conceptual marriage. It links Pakistan's tech and defense capacity, think the defense labs at Gahuda, directly to the financial power and spiritual authority coming out of Riyadh.
And the goal of that synergy?
It's designed to tackle that historical problem. Past alliances often lacked either enough military teeth or enough long-term, non-military justification to keep going. This tries to provide both.
And just to nail down the timeline again for everyone listening, the practical, visible start of this partnership isn't some vague future proposal. It's that Pakistan-Saudi agreement signed in 2025.
That's the date given. That bilateral pact is explicitly identified in the sources as the official signal. The moment the institutional formation officially begins, moving the concept off the drawing board.
And onto the desks of diplomats and generals. Starting the real work.
It's the mandate, essentially, the mandate for the architects to start building the house right away.
Okay, now let's get into the actual blueprint, the command pyramid, the architects behind this Muslim collective defense. Well, they clearly didn't go for anything simple or flat.
No, definitely not. They designed a pretty robust three-tiered pyramid structure, which makes sense, really, when you think about managing the complexity. Coordinating forces across, 3 continents, handling everything from nuclear strategy down to, say, humanitarian aid distribution.
Yeah, that's a huge scope.
So this tiered approach, it's the hallmark of serious strategic planning, isn't it? It ensures specialization, prevents missions overlapping, establishes clearer lines of authority. You move from the broad strategic oversight at the top.
Down through decentralized regional management.
And then culminating in these highly specialized functional units, the ones designed to tackle modern, often non-traditional threats.
Okay, let's start right at the top then. The strategic apex. The Supreme Allied Command, or SAC. This is the brain of the whole operation.
The SAC is the undisputed head of the military hierarchy. Think something like NATO's SHAPE headquarters. And one detail that immediately jumps out from the sources is the location.
Right, you mentioned Pakistan.
Specifically, its headquarters are deliberately centralized within Pakistan's crucial defense triangle. That encompasses Rawalpindi, Islamabad, Taxila.
Okay, Rawalpindi, Islamabad, Taxila. Why that specific triangle? It's not just picking a random spot on the map.
No, it seems very intentional. It places the command right in the heart of Pakistan's military-industrial complex, close to its intelligence infrastructure, its strategic assets.
So it avoids maybe the high-profile politics of a capital, Islamabad itself, but stays close to the military power base in Rawalpindi and the industrial side in Taxila.
Exactly. It reflects, it seems, a desire for operational efficiency and maybe some security insulation. Placing the SAC right next to the existing, established command structure ensures, theoretically, seamless access, strategic logistics, high-level intel data, the nuclear command infrastructure.
It basically makes the new alliance command an immediate operational extension of Pakistan's existing capabilities, rather than some separate thing that has to start from scratch.
That seems to be the logic presented. And the SAC's responsibilities really underscore Pakistan's central role here. They include overseeing the nuclear strategy, which obviously demands the highest level of coordination.
Top secret stuff.
Absolutely. Handling the overall strategic coordination of all alliance forces, and managing all the long-term alliance planning, things like doctrine development, wargaming exercises, the big picture strategy.
And who leads it? How is it governed?
Well, the SAC is led by a supreme commander, and as we mentioned, the sources say this commander is sourced from Pakistan, again, solidifying their role as the operational core, the custodian of that deterrence capability.
But not a dictator.
No. Crucially, this commander isn't autonomous. They are advised by a rotating council. This council is made up of the defense ministers from the core member states.
Ah, so there's political oversight baked in.
Absolutely critical. It ensures that while the operational command is unified and hopefully decisive, the political oversight remains multilateral. It's designed to prevent any accusations of unilateral action or, dictatorial control by one nation or one person. It's the political check on the military power.
Okay, that's the top. Moving down the pyramid, we hit the second tier. This addresses the sheer geographic complexity, right? The regional commands or zonal defense circles. Because the central SAC in Pakistan can't realistically manage daily threats everywhere from North Africa to Southeast Asia.
Decentralization isn't just nice to have here, it's essential, absolutely vital for efficiency. Geographic priorities, strategic priorities, they vary wildly. A threat in the Strait of Hormuz needs a totally different response, a different force structure than, say, a border issue on the Central Asian steppes.
Makes sense.
So our sources detail 4 primary regional commands, each with a specific mandate tailored to its unique security environment and, importantly, leveraging the strengths of its host nation.
Okay, let's walk through them. First, maybe the economic heartland, the Gulf Command, hosted by Saudi Arabia. What are its specific jobs, reflecting that region's volatility?
The Gulf Command's focus is described as hyperspecific, really tied to global economic stability. Its mandates include stringent energy security, protecting all that oil and gas infrastructure.
Pipelines, terminals, shipping lanes.
All of it. And maritime defense of vital choke points. Think the Strait of Hormuz, Bab el-Mandeb. Plus, as the host, they're responsible for that critical mission of holy site security we talked about. That's a core responsibility, going beyond purely military concerns, tying back to the alliance's moral purpose.
And presumably things like integrated air and missile defense are huge for that command, too.
Oh, undoubtedly. A major priority for the Gulf Command, given the regional threats.
Okay. Next, moving east. The South Asia Command, hosted by Pakistan. Now, given the SAC is also there, what makes the regional command's mission distinct?
Good question. The South Asia Command is portrayed as the dedicated conventional defense manager for that zone. Its mission focuses heavily on maintaining the regional balance of power, defending Pakistan's borders specifically, and managing the tactical stuff needed to maintain the credibility of nuclear deterrence within the South Asian theater.
So SAC does overarching nuclear strategy. South Asia Command handles the specific conventional forces and tactical nuclear posture relevant to its immediate neighborhood.
That seems to be the division of labor, yes. The SAC manages the big strategic picture. The South Asia Command manages the troops and tactical deployment for this specific critical zone.
Got it. Okay, moving west now. The North Africa Command, hosted by Egypt. This sounds like a crucial one for managing stability operations, maybe peacekeeping.
Absolutely. Egypt's geography, its strategic location, really dictates its focus. Their primary responsibilities revolve around Mediterranean security, protecting those vital sea lanes, managing potential instability spilling over from places like the Horn of Africa or the Sahel.
A volatile neighborhood.
Very. And critically, this command is geared towards conducting peacekeeping operations and potentially managing humanitarian crises linked to mass migration or regional conflicts in North Africa, and maybe wider African regions too. It's positioned as the alliance's main interface with African security issues.
Okay. And finally, bridging the continents, monitoring that vast interior, the Central Asia Command, hosted by Turkey.
Turkey's position, straddling Europe and Asia, makes this command essential. Its mandate emphasizes strategic logistics, think managing supply lines across huge land masses, and crucially, coordinating intelligence gathering across that central landmass.
Leveraging Turkey's strengths?
Exactly. This command seems designed to leverage Turkey's advanced drone capabilities, its defense tech, and serve as the main hub for regional intel analysis and coordination, especially between the Middle East and the former Soviet states in Central Asia.
Okay, that covers the geographic spread. Now we get down to the third tier of the pyramid, the one that tackles the modern cross-cutting challenges, the functional commands. You said 4 specialized forces.
Yes, 4. Designed to handle these 21st century, often non-traditional security threats that might not fit neatly into one regional commander's box or require very specialized skills.
This tier really shows foresight, doesn't it? Recognizing that future conflicts aren't just fought with tanks and planes anymore.
It does. And the structure ensures a clear division of labor for these high-stakes, specialized tasks.
So, first up, the Counter-Terrorism Command, hosted by Pakistan. That seems like a natural fit, given their, well, extensive experience.
It's described as an obvious choice. Pakistan's long, difficult history managing internal and external asymmetric warfare makes it the logical home for this command. They'd be responsible for standardizing counterterrorism doctrine across the alliance, providing specialized training, and coordinating joint rapid deployment forces for internal security ops in member states, if requested.
So they become the central bank of counterinsurgency expertise for the whole alliance.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Second, the Sacred Sites Protection Force, which, as we discussed, is Saudi-led, fulfilling their role as custodian of the 2 holy mosques.
Right.
This force is highly specialized, unique to this alliance concept. It's designed not just for conventional defense, but for deep security planning against terrorist threats, potential state-level interference targeting Islam's holiest places, ensuring continuous, internationally guaranteed access and protection, independent of, say, internal political shifts.
Very specific mission.
Okay.
Third, showing that commitment to advanced warfare. The Cyber and Space Command, led by Turkey.
Again, leveraging national strengths. Turkey's recent advancements in digital defense, aerospace tech, make them the ideal lead, according to the sources. This command would manage alliance-wide cyber defense strategy, develop integrated C4ISR platforms.
Command control, communications, computers, intelligence surveillance, reconnaissance. The works.
The whole digital nervous system. And coordinate defensive measures against emerging space-based threats, too. This is where the future of non-kinetic defense gets managed.
Fascinating. And the final specialized command.
The Humanitarian and Disaster Response Force, HADR, in military speak.
And where is that based?
Slated to have a joint headquarters, likely hosted, the sources suggest, in the UAE or Qatar, which makes sense.
Aye there.
Well, it draws on the huge logistical capabilities and financial resources of those Gulf nations. They're incredibly wealthy, logistically very sophisticated. This command represents the alliance's soft power face, addressing large-scale emergencies, natural disasters, post-conflict aid, providing a unified rapid response capability across member states.
So it adds a civilian-facing aid component, proving its value beyond just military defense.
Exactly. It shows the alliance aims to provide comprehensive security, kinetic and non-kinetic.
Looking at this whole 3-tiered pyramid, the detail is just remarkable, isn't it? It's not just a vague idea. It's a fully designed, bureaucratic, operational system laid out.
As one source summarized it quite well, it's not a dream, it's design in motion.
Right, let's move into Section 3 then. This tackles something absolutely critical for any alliance hoping to last: institutional permanence. We know from history, military pacts based just on shared enemies, they can be pretty temporary.
They often are. Alliances that actually last for generations need something deeper. They need institutions that, as our sources really stressed, outlive individuals.
That's the key phrase again.
It's the ultimate goal of institutionalization, isn't it? Yet this whole structure relies only on the personal relationship between, say, the current Saudi king and the current Pakistani leadership. Well, it's inherently fragile. It could fall apart with the next election or succession.
So to become self-sustaining, it needs rules, permanent staff, committees, joint funding mechanisms.
Exactly. Codified procedures. That's the institutional backbone they're aiming to construct, according to these documents.
Okay, so let's detail the 5 primary permanent institutions mentioned. The ones designed to provide this multi-decade stability. Starting at the top, the political level, the Council of Defense Ministers.
This council acts as the political compass for the entire alliance. It provides the necessary high-level direction, the strategic mandate. It's there to ensure that military actions, long-term strategic plans, they all align with the presumably evolving political consensus of all the diverse member states.
So it's the forum for civilian control, maintaining multilateral agreement over the military side.
That's its crucial function, keeping the military accountable to the collective political will.
Okay, then below that, focused purely on the practical military integration side, we find 2 critical bodies. The Joint Military Committee, JMC, and the Combined Chiefs of Staff. Are they different?
Yes, and the distinction is fundamental to efficiency. The JMC, the Joint Military Committee, handles the day-to-day peacetime process, ongoing strategic planning, standardizing military procedures, doctrine, equipment, and crucially, coordinating and running joint training exercises. They ensure interoperability year-round.
So the JMC is the constant planning and training engine.
Right. The Combined Chiefs of Staff, however, that's the emergency execution body. They provide unified operational control only during times of declared crisis or actual kinetic action.
Okay. So the planning and training are continuous, but the body that actually commands troops in a fight only gets activated when the political decision is made to invoke collective defense.
Precisely. That separation seems designed to prevent mission creep, and it ensures that activating the most powerful military assets always requires a distinct political trigger from the Council of Ministers, separate from the ongoing administrative planning of the JMC.
That's actually quite clever. It builds in a safety mechanism.
It appears so. We also see a clear commitment in the plans towards industrial self-sufficiency. That's exemplified by the creation of the Defense Industrial Board.
A board focused on weapons and tech. That sounds very forward-looking. What areas are they supposed to focus on?
Its mandate is described as threefold. 1, managing shared research and development funds. 2, promoting intellectual property sharing between members. And 3, facilitating joint defense production initiatives.
So building stuff together.
Exactly. The sources point to key priorities like developing indigenous drone and anti-drone technology, joint missile defense systems, standardized cyber defense platforms, things like that.
And the strategic goal there?
Reduce reliance on external suppliers, primarily Western or Russian arms. Standardize equipment across the alliance, which helps interoperability. And, maybe just as importantly, permanently tie member economies together through these shared high-value manufacturing projects.
It's economic integration wrapped in defense policy.
That's a good way to put it. And finally, holding all the non-kinetic threads together day to day, the Islamic Security Secretariat.
The bureaucratic hub.
Essentially, yes. This secretariat is described as the central nervous system for the non-kinetic defense efforts. It's the critical coordinating office for that continuous lower-level integration work. Things like intelligence sharing, coordinating cyber defense strategies across members, managing the continuous transnational counter-terrorism effort.
So this office makes sure the day-to-day stuff happens, regardless of whether ministers are meeting or there's a global crisis. Provides continuity.
That's its purpose, keeping the essential background coordination running smoothly.
Okay, 5 key institutions. But none of this incredibly complex structure works without a legal foundation, right? Which brings us to the Muslim Collective Defense Treaty, MCDT.
The MCDT is the bedrock, the founding document. It's described as currently being drafted, and its inspiration is, well, not subtle at all. It's explicitly modeled on NATO's foundational Article 5.
The big one.
The gold standard for collective security. An attack on one is an attack on all. By adopting this model, they're clearly trying to signal to the world, and importantly to potential members, that this alliance's defensive commitment is intended to be absolute, legally binding.
And our sources dig deeper than just that core principle, right? They detail how the treaty translates this vision into international law through 5 specific articles, codifying the whole thing. Let's look at the strategic impact of this legal framework.
Okay. Article 1, naturally, it establishes that fundamental commitment to collective defense. It makes the attack on one principle legally enforceable among signatories. That's the core military guarantee.
Standard stuff for a defense pact. But Article 2 takes a really interesting and maybe necessary inward step, a pledge of non-aggression toward fellow Muslim states. Why is that so crucial to put right in the founding treaty?
Well, it directly addresses centuries of internal conflict, historical rivalries, political tensions within the Muslim world. It acts as a kind of preventative mechanism, trying to build foundational trust by legally ruling out aggression between signatories.
So it's a political precondition almost, to make the military alliance function by focusing its posture purely outwards.
That seems to be the logic, focusing it purely on external defense. Then, Article 3 mandates the establishment of mutual consultation and transparency mechanisms.
The operational glue, ensuring everyone keeps talking?
Pretty much. It guarantees that political issues get addressed proactively, through diplomacy, through consultation, before they escalate into military or security problems. It essentially establishes a legal right for members to demand transparency and discussion from their allies on strategic matters. Builds confidence.
Now, Article 4. This one seems perhaps the most unique aspect of the whole legal framework. It demands explicit respect for sovereignty and commitment to Sharia-based ethics. That weaves the religious and moral purpose directly into the legal code.
It does. It potentially provides a strong internal check on actions. It ties the alliance's conduct, its rules of engagement perhaps, to a higher moral standard, as defined by the sources. And it reinforces the constitutional independence of the member states.
So it's trying to ensure that unity doesn't mean sacrificing sovereignty.
Exactly. And it demands adherence to certain ethics in military conduct. It's also framed as preventing the alliance from being used as a tool for internal political interference within member states.
And finally, Article 5, the action clause.
The trigger. This lays out the mechanism for actually invoking the collective response if an external attack happens. It dictates the procedure for unified military reaction, linking that political declaration of an external threat directly to the activation of the combined chiefs of staff we mentioned earlier.
Okay. When you look at those 5 articles together,
Yeah.
they really reinforce that principle you mentioned earlier, don't they?
Which principle?
That this whole structure is meticulously designed as a confederation, not subordination.
Yes, absolutely. Through the legal codification especially, Article 4 on sovereignty and ethics, and the role of that rotating Council of Ministers, they seem to have explicitly tried to guarantee that the political and legal sovereignty of every member state is preserved, even while contributing forces and funds to the collective defense structure.
Unity, but not assimilation, keeping national identity intact.
That seems to be the core promise embedded in the legal framework.
All right, Section 4. Let's anchor this massive vision in a more tangible timeline, a trajectory, starting with the immediate aftermath of that initial Pakistan-Saudi agreement. We've established that pact was signed in 2025, according to the sources.
That 2025 moment is framed as the institutional kickoff, starting pistol. And the immediate next step plan, based on the document, is the creation of a Joint Command Secretariat.
Okay, Secretariat. So not the full SAC headquarters straight away.
No, this Secretariat isn't the final, fully functional HQ. It's described more as a temporary, high-level liaison office. Critically, it's planned to be staffed by liaison officers not just from Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, but also from multiple key prospective member countries, like Egypt and Turkey are mentioned.
That seems like a really smart way to start, kind of a testing ground. Why begin with just liaison officers in a secretariat instead of launching the full SAC immediately?
Well, it allows these key nations to start integrating their military and intelligence liaison officers right away. They can begin sharing operational data, building that crucial inter-service trust, working out communication kinks.
Without the full legal commitment of the MCDT being ratified yet.
Exactly. It's presented as a lower stakes but high-impact way to test the integration mechanisms, to establish communication protocols, maybe start some interoperability training early on, all designed to smooth the eventual transition to the full operational headquarters later. It de-risks the big launch.
Makes sense. And the strategy for bringing more countries in, how does it grow?
Very deliberately. The plan avoids any hint of coercion. The expansion strategy is wholly predicated on voluntary accession.
So countries have to choose to join. No pressure.
The sources stress that credibility is paramount here. The alliance must maintain consent, maintain moral legitimacy among its future members. It's intended to be an inspired alliance, one that demonstrates its success and necessity, rather than becoming some kind of coerced geopolitical bloc.
Which seems essential given the political diversity across the Muslim world.
Absolutely. This voluntary approach is seen as fundamental for managing that inherent diversity and ensuring long-term buy-in.
Okay, this careful, phased approach. It leads us to the comprehensive midterm target mentioned in the sources, the 2030 goal. That date seems like a critical benchmark for judging the alliance's initial success.
It does. By 2030, the goal is described as achieving comprehensive integration. The operational Muslim Defense Alliance headquarters in Pakistan, the full SAC, must be fully functional, meaning the SAC is established and running. The zonal commands are coordinating their first joint military exercises. The specialized functional commands like cyber or counter-terrorism are beginning to execute their mandates effectively.
So fully operational militarily.
Yes. And furthermore, the legal framework the MCDT needs to be ratified by a foundational group of members and achieve some form of international recognition. And crucially, the sources emphasize that by 2030, the whole endeavor must be economically sustainable. It needs to have transitioned beyond just those initial large capital injections from Saudi Arabia.
Towards a robust, long-term funding model with contributions from multiple members.
Exactly. A sustainable financial structure is key for that long-term permanence.
But as we've kind of touched on throughout, structure alone isn't enough, is it? The sources keep looping back to the spirit behind the structure. The idea that the architecture needs a soul, a moral foundation to guide how it actually operates.
This is where that purpose pillar really finds its institutional voice. The sources explicitly tie the soul of the structure to a moral purpose, rooted in Quranic guidance, seeking legitimacy not just from military power, but from ethical principles.
And the goal of that?
To ensure the alliance is perceived both internally among members and externally as defensive and unifying, not expansionist, not hegemonistic.
And there's a specific verse mentioned.
Yes, the sources quote a foundational verse. And hold fast all together to the rope of Allah and be not divided. That's from Surah Al-Imran, verse 103. This is presented as providing the theological mandate for unity, for institutionalization, for collective responsibility.
Okay.
The sources explain this as the synthesis they're aiming for, an alliance that unites faith, force, and foresight. A potent combination, they suggest. And critically, it's defined explicitly, repeatedly, as operating without aggression, without hegemony.
That phrase again.
It's a core constraint, foundational to its stated purpose, positioning it strictly as a defense alliance, legally and morally bound against conquest or domination, whether of external parties or even fellow members. It sets a very strict operational scope.
And the ultimate stated goal. It shows the full arc of this concept, doesn't it? How the nuclear umbrella, which really began as a strategic shield just to secure Pakistan's sovereignty.
Yes, and through the creation of this incredibly complex, multi-layered architecture from the SAC all the way down to the Sacred Sites Protection Force, it's projected to evolve, to become, in the words used, a sanctuary for the entire Muslim world.
So the initial defensive capability of one nation gets institutionalized, expanded, and extended as a protective measure for the collective.
Transforming a national deterrent into a multinational security guarantee. That's the grand vision outlined.
Well, that brings us towards the close of this really intensive deep dive. We started with this bold geopolitical concept, the nuclear umbrella, and we've meticulously tried to dissect its planned operational reality, this formalized three-tiered command system. I think the key takeaway for you listening is the sheer detail in this transformation. A philosophy potentially turned into an institutional command system, and meticulously underpinned by those two distinct anchors we discussed.
Pakistan providing the strategic command, the military might.
And Saudi Arabia providing the financial backbone and that crucial moral conscience or legitimacy.
It really is a remarkable case study in, well, intentional institutional design, isn't it? We've essentially looked at the blueprint for turning this long-held ideal of Muslim unity and collective security into what's intended to be a sustainable, multi-decade institution, complete with codified legal articles, specialized commands, permanent coordinating bodies, even a financial plan.
The depth of the design itself implies a very serious, very long-term commitment to reshaping the regional security architecture.
It certainly suggests that.
Absolutely. And as we leave you to mull over this dense yet surprisingly clearly defined structure, let's just quickly return to that unique friction point we identified earlier, that balancing act required by the Muslim Collective Defense Treaty.
Ah, yes, the MCDT.
Yeah.
It really is an unprecedented kind of undertaking, attempting to marry the most serious military guarantees. Article 5, attack on one is an attack on all, with these very specific ethical and legal constraints.
Binding members to absolute collective action in case of an external attack.
But simultaneously binding them to a strict internal legal and ethical code, based on Article 4, respecting sovereignty and adhering to Sharia-based ethics, that does create a powerful inherent tension, doesn't it?
It really does. Which raises, I think, the central, maybe provocative question for you to explore on your own after this. How challenging will it actually be in practice to maintain consensus among what will inevitably be diverse sovereign states, often with competing political interests, when the decision to launch collective military action under Article 5? When that decision has to pass not only the test of military necessity, but also the test of internal, legally mandated ethical conduct laid out in Article 4.
It's a framework that promises unprecedented collective power, certainly. But achieving that power seems contingent on the signatories being able to navigate an equally unprecedented level of ongoing moral and political coordination. That's the tightrope they'll have to walk.